Hey everybody, welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, retail kind of come a long way since my time working in the biz.
Really? You think so?
Especially where like the only signage that you would find in a retail establishment, or in mine at least, was like stuff that was either taped to a wall,
literally taped to a wall of it,
to a shelf, maybe hanging from the ceiling. Like I remember my bookstore that I worked in had like those little clips you could put up in the ceiling.
I remember you talking lovingly about like cardboard cutouts that you would have to put up.
Yes, there was
the good old cardboard cutout.
Building cardboard Star Wars droids for tie-in stuff, whatever. That stuff was kind of fun. Yeah.
You think we've advanced a little bit since?
Just a little bit. We don't quite have to do that kind of stuff anymore. Because we got screens now.
Ah, yes,
and
we do.
Everybody loves staring at a screen, so let's just stick a whole bunch of screens up and
stare some more.
Make people stare at those. I act as if I'm negative about this, even though it's part of our livelihood. But digital displays can convey information.
Yes, of course.
They can advertise. They can even potentially upsell.
Yes.
But you can still find a lot of stores these days that really aren't taking advantage of those, especially if it's not part of like point of sale or part of a kiosk or something. So we wanted to understand more about that. So hey, guess what? We've done another one of our end user surveys.
Love it.
For BlueStar Nation.
Yes.
Which you're checking out BlueStar Nation now, right?
If they're not, they should. What?
I don't know why you'd be listening to this podcast
and not checking
not following BlueStar. Now, I'm not going to say that BlueStar Nation is doing better work than we are, but there's some really good stuff going on there. We got to fill like a bunch of episodes a year, and so sometimes it means us sitting around talking about random stuff.
That's right.
BlueStar Nation, we're doing very deliberate,
carefully
articles
curated.
That's
right. It's very intentional. We just talk.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't go out and survey hundreds of people about something.
No, we didn't. No.
You and me.
No.
We
get to
leave that to
comment
other
on it.
fine folks.
That's
and then, we go out and collate. And to be fair, actually, I wrote this article. But again, it was one that other people did all the work. And I was just like, all right, let me review the data and make some sense out of it here.
No, this is a good one. This is very timely.
Yeah, we're going to make some further sense out of this. We're going to talk about this survey was sponsored by Samsung. Thanks so much to them for doing this. This came out a couple months ago on our blog. We figured, hey, we need to dig into this one a little bit, talk about some of the details. And I figured lean on your experience a little bit in the digital signage world.
There you go.
As well.
Been there, done that. Yep.
So we're going to talk about our methodology. We're going to talk about top reasons why people don't use digital signage in their retail environments, what they would find beneficial, who's actually going to be in charge of this stuff so you can figure out who you need to be talking to, and also figure out if their perceptions of cost are accurate, which I'm going to lean on you for that because I have no idea.
I got some issues with this. Yes. All right.
Good. See, I like when you've got issues. That tells me we've got stuff that we can teach people about to teach their users about. So,
we're good.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR. What's tech connecting with us? It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, Dean, let's start digging right in. And
yes.
Obviously, the first thing we always have to do on these is give a little background on the methodology.
Yes.
Who we talk to.
This legitimizes us.
Yeah.
Right? To a certain degree. It's not like
we just come out here and say, like, hey, 50% of people said this. And you're like, well, who are those 50%? Never you mind. 50% said it, though.
They're living and breathing. School children. But who cares?
Yeah. It was my family over Christmas break. Always, we went out and we got a third-party data collector to help us out with this.
All right.
They collected 125 responses about digital signage for retail. Now, we focus specifically on the U.S., full-time employees only, and we asked them to identify their industry as either as retail and e-commerce. And specifically, we wanted to make sure that they had some brick and mortar physical locations, obviously, because you can't deploy digital signage in an online store.
That's right.
So 70% of the folks that responded said they identify themselves as having mostly physical and brick and mortar locations, while the other 30% said they were both online and physical, an omni-channel or a hybrid situation there. All of the folks we actually, this was really interesting, I thought, too. A nice breakdown is we divided up evenly, 25% each an even split of work departments.
I thought that was
Between
brilliant that we got this.
I know this was not intentional, but
No,
this is how
it was
nicely worked out.
perfect.
Operations, executives, and owners, marketing, and IT. So fully a
you
quarter
go.
of each of those, were the responses split evenly there.
What a great sample.
No doubt. And then most of the folks we talked to were at the director level and above. Over half were director, 38% were VP and head, and 8% were at the C-suite level. And then specifically what we also wanted to do here too was make sure that we were only talking to folks who we asked a question like, hey, are you deploying digital signage in any of the following areas? And we gave them a list of all the potential places you could use it. And as long as they only answered or either answered nothing or only answered point of sale or kiosk applications, then they could move on. Because we wanted folks that were not currently deploying digital signage outside of those applications so we can understand like, hey, why aren't you doing this?
Oh, I see.
Why aren't you using it for advertising? Why aren't
so
you
this is
using
not
it
at
for
the point of sale
wayfinding?
is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So I mean, so if they could have been using it point of sale only, and we would accept them in there as long as they weren't using it somewhere else. One of the folks that basically are like, nah, I'm not interested in this whole digital signage around my establishment.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Right.
Or I'm just not doing it yet,
Yeah.
so we can understand a little bit about the why.
Yeah.
We also put a little bit of effort into again, always try to get a wide swath of different types of retailers.
Yes. Thought we
Because
did a great job here too.
Different retailers are going to have different needs potentially when it comes to digital signage. Some might
for
see
sure.
the benefit or have better benefits from it than others.
For sure.
So we got quite a variety from anything from apparel and footwear. We got a lot of folks from electronics, auto parts and accessories, beauty and personal care. Those are probably the big four categories. Then we got a decent amount of people from grocery and home improvement as well, and a scattering of others here and there. And most of them were stores where they employed anywhere from 100 to 250 people. But again, we got a nice swath of those as well.
Yeah.
All right, so now we've set the stage.
Well, but before we move on, I think we hit the nail on the head here.
I do too.
I mean, what a great sampling of departments, senior level, job seniority. So these are the people that make the decision.
Yep.
I mean, we are asking the right people the context here. And what I also like about the sample that we got, when you look at the number of employees, the majority of them were in that 100 to 250. So this is not your tier ones.
Right. We're
your
not talking
tier
Walmarts
twos.
and Home Depots
No,
here or
Right. It's not
anything.
the
No.
big boys and
No.
girls that have already deployed these massive digital signage retail media networks. These are what I would call not even the small mom and pop, although we do have that represented.
Right.
This is kind of that mid tier, right? So in my mind, this would be the sweet spot
Maybe
of
like
where
a,
this
a
technology.
regional chain,
Yeah.
that has like, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe 5 to 10 stores at most, like.
Or yes, yeah, absolutely.
But and probably
Some
not even most of them are probably
regionality.
not even that big. Like maybe just somebody that's got like, I don't know, maybe like a franchise of a couple stores around town or something to that effect.
So I really think that, from a methodology standpoint, I mean, I think whoever made all these calls did bang on. The 125 respondents are exactly who I would have tried to have
I'll
gotten.
say it's partly a product of us hopefully giving them good questions
coaching,
and
yes.
little coaching. But honestly, they're professionals, and and when we give them like, hey, here's what we're looking to survey, they always come back and sit down with us and say, hey, here's what we recommend. We've done this long enough. We recommend including some certain questions to help filter out people that are just paint by numbers and clicking and filling it out.
I gotcha.
We recommend some certain questions to make sure that you're getting exactly what you want to get out of it.
Okay, good.
They were very good at helping us get in that direction as well. All right, so the first question we asked off the top is basically, again, because these are folks that were not currently deploying digital signage outside of POS or kiosks, it's basically said, hey, why not? What's your top concern? 46% of those said cost. It's never surprising when cost is a number one factor there. I mean,
Go ahead.
I mean, most of the time people are going to say, yeah, it's the price. Of something. I don't want to do that. But we got some other good responses, though. 20% said not enough space, and 20% said they didn't have the expertise to deploy this digital signage. And then a smaller percentage said content management, or a very small percentage said they didn't see the actual value in doing this as well. Any thoughts that you had on the concerns before we kind of talk about, where they do see benefit?
Absolutely. So for me, I was slightly surprised to see cost as being part of the barrier, because in my mind, it can't be the hardware at this point, at least, and I guess I'm foolishly thinking this, but because of the fact that you can go and buy a 45-inch screen at Walmart for less than $500.
That's true.
So what more do you need? Well, even if you don't have the compute on the screen, you would need a small medium player. I'm just ballparking it. Under $1,000, I think you could get a screen, shall I say, the hardware components of it. So I was a little bit surprised at the cost. The cost used to be a huge barrier. And I'm going back 12 years. 15 years when you have plasma monitors that cost, $4 or $5 grand, you're not hanging those.
Right.
But now screens are so cheap.
Yeah.
It was a little bit, but I did take it as, well, maybe I'm not thinking, they must be thinking of the ongoing costs, which we're going to get into in the survey.
Right.
Maybe these people are already extrapolating that it's not the physical hardware, it's got to be like the ongoing costs. I don't know.
Or I wonder if it's just one of those things where when you give cost as an option, people are typically going to say that
It costs too much.
They just assume everything costs too much.
Right.
Maybe that's part of it too. I'd be interested in maybe someday we do one of these surveys where there's the idea that cost could potentially be an answer, but we don't make it one of the answers. Maybe we just give some other stuff and then leave an other option where they can tell us other, but please explain.
Right.
And I'd be curious to see how many cost answers
actually
you
comes
would
in
get as
there.
the other please explain when that's not really going to be the factor.
So that was why I was a little bit surprised on cost. Surprised, maybe not. I mean, clearly, yes, people are going to say that because they don't maybe know, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But anyway, another nugget that I'll pull out here that I thought was a really good thing is only 3% don't see the value in these digital signage systems. So that means 97% of the people see some value in having digital signage. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. That means you've broken down that barrier. Yeah. It's not like you're walking in the door and people just don't even see the value. You got to sell the value.
They know that they get that there's a use for them.
Bingo.
Yeah.
They see the value. Now we just got to break down all these other barriers, which are cost, expertise. Some of those things like expertise, I absolutely get it. Oh, yeah. 20% of the people.
That's what our VARs exist for.
100%. You're like, okay, maybe I could, I can go to Walmart, I can get a screen, but I don't have the expert. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. I don't know how to mount it. I don't know what to put on it or why. I don't know, how if it should run or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
well, then that leads us nicely though into the next question, where we asked, where would you find digital displays most beneficial in your store? So again, this hopefully did hinge on the idea that not a lot of people were going to say they didn't see any value, which thankfully that didn't happen. So basically, all right, well then tell us, what do you think would be beneficial about using these? And we asked them to select a top 3 for this one, in order to kind of give us a little bit more than just like one simple answer. So by far, easily the top 2 were window displays and shelf displays. Over 60% of them answered one or both of those. After that, you had about 48% of folks that said wayfinding and directory, 43% said promotions and marketing, and 41% third-party advertising. Much smaller percentages suggested using them in employee areas or for customer entertainment. So bottom line, most folks looked at this and said, you know what, I think having some kind of displays in our windows, in our shelves, probably going to be beneficial. Potentially some benefits from advertising, promotions, wayfinding, all the stuff that obviously we are out there positioning this kind of digital signage for and think can be beneficial for. They're seeing that benefit. They do think it's out there. Now, I'll also point out, we did, I did, when I was going through all this survey data, you tried to figure out all right, where are some places where I can correlate specific types of retailers to some of this to see if there may be any connective tissue there? You can dig much deeper into this by checking out the survey. Of course, the link's going to be in our show notes, or you should be, again, subscribe to BlueStar Nation, to do this stuff. Nation.bluestarinc.com. But a couple ones that stood out to me. More than half of beauty, personal care, and electronics executives answered promotions and marketing as where they saw the most benefit.
Makes sense.
Half of auto parts, accessories, electronics, and 66% of grocery said they were interested in wayfinding, store, or department directory displays, which makes a lot of sense to me, especially like automotive.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know if how many times have you gone to an auto parts store and been like, I don't know where to start. You have to get that stupid giant book out. Find your model and skim through some stuff to find it. Imagine having just a nice little touch screen that you could punch in, my car is X. I need a filter. Bam, go find this one. Here's what shelf it's on, what display it's on, maybe even an arrow pointing in the right direction or something. I don't know. So I think
we're going to come back to that one, but go on, because you got a couple more.
There's more of these. I won't go into all of these, but those are the 2 that really stood out to me as a direct correlation between a particular retailer type and where they saw some benefit. But
we got to unpack some of this stuff.
Right,
so let's go back to the 65% saw the benefit of a window display. What do you think they were thinking when they answered that yes? Because
it's a good question.
And I got hung up on that a little bit. I'm like, a window display. So I'm assuming that it's an outward-facing window of their establishment where they're promoting externally to get people in. right?
Yeah, that would be my assumption.
That would be my assumption too. I just wanted to clarify that because in essence that's a promotion. In my mind, that's also a promotion marketing. So it was a little bit gray, which got 43%. So anyway, if indeed that's what folks were thinking, now that makes sense. You know, so they see the value of its ability, the medium's ability to attract attention and maybe even convince somebody to change their behavior, a la walk into the store, if they weren't planning on doing that originally. So,
and I think promotions marketing, at least the intent we had behind it, but to your point, maybe we could have had a little more clarity on this, is that maybe more promotion marketing when you're in store, of promoting, you know, here's what's on sale,
a product,
yeah, here's the hot new product or something, having, you know, sponsored products or whatever, or you know, hey, it's a BOGO right now, you know, buy one get one, you know, limited time offer type stuff. I don't know, that could be what that's for too. But yes, to your point, someone could easily construe both of those things kind of meaning the same thing.
Yeah. So what I like about it is that some of the industry arguments that they have been making, meaning the digital signage industry for years and years and years, are clearly resonating. When you have window displays in the top, promotions and marketing are almost 50%. I would have liked to have seen that a little higher because to me that is part of the gold of digital signage is what you can do to move the needle on sales. Third-party advertising obviously ranked a little bit higher there, and I'm also assuming that shelf displays. When we talk about shelf displays, there's content on there that is promoting things that are on the shelf.
Right.
So it's maybe a further deeper dive into maybe the products that you're seeing there. So in essence, you know, this is all around education and or moving the needle on that particular product. So I agree with all that, and it's good to see again that a lot of those scored high. Customer entertainment only 6%. That's good. We're not here to entertain people. We're here to move.
Unless you're like at a bar or something, you know, like I don't need something that's like, you know, running a sitcom or whatever when I'm out trying to shop. You know?
So
like,
I'm glad to see that was really low.
Right.
You know, that the expectation is, well, I don't want to entertain people while they're here. I want to move the needle. So I think they're all getting that. Now I'm going to hover a little bit more on the auto parts and accessory in the grocery store, which I do think is brilliant. Again, 66% of groceries were interested in wayfinding, which is spot on. But what worries me is that now you got to take that to the next level, meaning who's programming that? And maybe that's a little bit of a disconnect on the cost, because, you know, you can put in a kiosk, and we'll get there in a second. It's not wildly expensive, but then who is the auto parts person that's now mapping the store?
That's a good question.
Oh, the wipers are here.
That is a great question,
oil's
because
here,
you'd think that'd have to be almost like a corporate level thing, but then that would also demand that every store is kind of set up similarly.
And they're not.
And they're never.
I can already answer that. So it's an individual store.
Yeah, you're going to have stuff. That's where the expertise of the people there.
I think that
really
there's
matters.
some of the disconnect. It's not disconnect. It's just like, I would love to use it for wayfinding, and there absolutely is an application. I think these are brilliant applications. I walk into a grocer I'm not familiar with. I look around. Oh, where is the, I don't know, tortillas? Right. And it would be great to search it and here's your path.
But then again, I mean, and again, though, I think of like, you know, larger tier 1 stores. Like I think of like, you know, a Kroger that has an app, you know, that you can type in a product and it will tell you what aisle in your local store to go find it.
Right.
But again,
those are the big guys.
Those are the big guys. I can't see your mid-tier mom and pop shop ever being able to do that.
Yes and no, but I'm going to just take a quick sidebar here. Here's where I think AI and some of the things that are being developed can help. So what I just witnessed recently, one of the robotics companies that we've onboarded, Bear Robotics, it was interesting to see them set up their unit for a demonstration. We were in a sales kickoff anyway, but we were in this room that had lots of tables. It was an expo room. And what they do basically is they turn on the robot and then they walk beside it and it has LiDAR. So it's mapping the entire room.
Right.
Well, this would be easy to like, you don't even need the robot, but now I could see a way for wayfinding. If the software had the ability where a store clerk could just walk around and map the store, you know, this is where the salami's at, this is where the bananas are at, this is where and just do the individual mapping. That would be, maybe somebody's already done what I just said, but I think that would bridge the gap between now implementing this solution very, very easily. If it was that easy.
But you're starting to talk about now these solutions starting to get much more robust. If there needs to be robotics, or some kind of cameras.
Yeah, I was just using that as a use case. What I'm saying is, if I was a software developer that was in the wayfinding and wanted to specialize in grocery stores, just enable the clerk to be able to walk around via an app and kind of map out the store a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you would have to put the LiDAR in there because that's kind of mapping the walls and this thing. I don't know, man. We're gonna get there someday. We're gonna get there someday.
Yes.
There's gonna be this confluence.
There's a little
of
pie in the sky going on here. I think with
a little
some of this
bit,
stuff,
but that would be what would make this happen, because I've never been in, even though I think it's a great use case, I've never been to an auto parts store that has a wayfinding kiosk.
Right. And more importantly, these folks obviously are clearly looking at this stuff and saying, this stuff would be awesome for us.
Clearly.
So I think it's good ammo for you to use as a VAR.
Yep.
Or as an ISV that may be working on this kind of stuff,
to
stay feet to the ground with this and keep having those conversations and to keep talking to those folks and be like, hey, when this is ready to go, when we are to that point, you know what kind of a customer base you need to be going after who are clearly already invested in interest in this, even though it's something that could be, 5-10 years off before it's really fully implemented.
I don't think it's that far in. But anyway, I thought I wanted to hover on that one just a little bit because again, I think the application is brilliant. It's a little bit challenged on the software side there. But anyway, that gets into the cost.
Yeah, let's talk about the cost here a little bit. And this is where like I said, I wanted to lean on your expertise here a little bit because, we again asked basically essentially for different types of displays, large format displays like promotions, marketing, customer entertainment, wayfinding store, window displays visible to passerby, shelf or end cap displays, and backroom displays. We asked for each of those, among tiers of pricing, how much would you expect this stuff to typically cost? And we basically said it also to deploy it in your store, not just the hardware itself, but the overall deployment ideally is what they should be thinking of here.
That's key.
It is, yes, I think so too.
Cost to deploy,
and hopefully people thought of it that way too. And maybe that's where some of the pricing may be, I don't know, more than you might have expected. I'm going to let you talk about this one because I'm not going to break down every single one of who said what here. What stood out to you? And where do you think people got it right and where do you think they got it wrong?
And I think the deployed cost is key here because if you just think about the cost of the hardware, for example, a majority of folks put the LFD, just putting up a large format for promotions or whatnot in store, is somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000. So to me, $5,000 is like, holy Christ, what are we putting in here? A 110-inch, touch? What are we doing? That's a lot of money to throw at a screen at this point in time. But if you think about the deployed cost, then I think that this is relatively accurate. I was just ballparking. I don't know, but it would seem to me to cost around $2,500 if I was going to put up a 50 some odd inch display installed. Right. So somebody's got to come out. That's going to cost $1,000 to roll somebody into do the wiring and all that kind of good stuff. So, but then I thought about it a little bit, this is, again, the people that answered this survey were generally in that 100 to 250 employees. Right. So I guarantee you they have some kind of operations person. I'm using air quotes. If you can internalize that cost, meaning that person's doing the installation, which at this day and age isn't wildly difficult to do, then really your cost is pretty cheap. Then I think that some of these were they were overestimating how much the cost would be. Because again, I'll just go back to my very simple, display, non-commercial. I understand. If it was a commercial display, you're probably still in the $1,500 range to have a commercial grade computer display with compute on board that can run digital signage. So I thought that was relatively accurate. Wayfinding here, I thought it was kind of undershooting just because of what I've talked about in the sense of the programming. The unit itself, maybe not so much, but the ongoing cost and maybe the deployment cost, because all you need is an outlet, right? Somewhat close to these kiosks. And believe you me, they're coming down in cost. You can deploy them for a couple $grand, but now you run into the content. Plugging in is
one thing. Walking up to it and get it to tell you exactly where you can find the air filter for your 67 sedan is something entirely different.
And this is where the reseller comes in, right? Yeah. So anyway, I didn't think it was wildly, if you look at the graph, pretty dead on. But again, I think it's deployed cost that was the key for me. That obviously people are thinking about that here, which is good because it's more than just my simple, I'm going to go to Best Buy or Walmart and buy a display. It's all good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting also that like window displays, there wasn't a lot of consensus on that one. Basically, it was an even split between folks that thought it would cost over or under $1,000.
Ah, okay.
They couldn't quite make up their mind of like what that would really cost there, which tells me maybe they just haven't done the research or haven't put a lot of effort into this.
I see. Yeah.
I thought that one was kind of interesting too.
That is interesting. Yeah.
All right. Well, the next up, we wanted to ask some questions about basically about understanding who are the folks that are going to be responsible for this stuff.
Yep.
Which I think, again, is obviously going to be super valuable if you are going out and trying to sell these to retailers.
Yep.
Who should you be talking to? Who's going to be the decision makers? And also, who's going to be the person who's responsible for putting it up, maintaining it, and managing content on it? So we had a series of questions around that. So I'll get into all three of those, and then we'll kind of hash out what we think of those responses. So when we ask who would be the primary decision maker for purchasing digital signage for your business, the majority said either marketing or IT, which I thought it was interesting that marketing was up there. And granted, I'm not saying that it shouldn't potentially be a marketing department's job. Obviously, if you're deploying stuff that is related to marketing and promoting your brand and your products and whatever's going on in store, it makes sense that those folks would be involved. I don't know that they're the ones I would typically think are the ones who are making that final decision.
Okay.
But it's interesting to see that they are a big part of that. Maybe it's something where jointly they'd be working with some other departments.
Yeah.
But basically 38% of folks said marketing would do it, 30% said their IT would be doing it, and then smaller percentages, around 20%, said the owner or executives. Only 11% of individual locations and 2% of the folks taking this survey said, well, that would be my responsibility. On the question about who's responsible for deploying and maintaining the screens, as well as creating and managing content, those are some interesting responses too. So basically about an even percentage said on the deployment and maintainment side that either store staff or an external IT department, ding, 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 would be responsible for doing that. Around 35% both said that as their answer, with another 26%, so about a quarter, responded saying that their internal IT staff would take care of that. On the content management side, creating and managing the content, again, a wide variety of responses here. 32% said their internal IT or operations would do that. 26% again said they'd be looking externally for their external IT or a creative agency. And 21% said store staff, with much smaller percentages saying marketing. 14%.
I thought that was
marketing.
fascinating. Yes.
Again, especially given if we're suggesting that marketing is going to be one of the primary departments responsible for making a decision, but you don't think they're going to have anything to do with the content?
Bingo. I picked up on that too.
That kind of told me like maybe people just have a bit of a disconnect about understanding who would do what.
Oh, I think so.
What it means to create content, or what kind of, which again, this could be a real good benefit, I think, for our VAR partners thinking about going out and selling signage and having a content creation or content management company, whether it's you and whether it's something you're good at, or having someone that you're partner with that you're bringing with you. Because I get the feeling these folks don't quite understand what it means to not just throw a display up, but realize what it means to actually make effective use of that display by putting really good content on it that's going to get the kind of attention or usage, and again, accomplish what you think it's supposed to do.
That's it.
I bet there's a bit of a divide there. That's why people don't quite see like who is the one who is supposed to be responsible for that. What were your thoughts on all
Yeah, we used to call that
who and what.
We used to call that day two cost. And who owns the day two cost? Seriously, and people would look at you bewildered like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we can put these screens up, but when I was selling this, but who's in charge of then the content moving forward? And it's like you had to have that conversation. So anyway, going back, the purchasing of digital signage, I'm not as surprised, because to me it's coming out of one of these two buckets of budget.
That's true.
It's either it's either seen as a hardware investment, so screens come out of IT,
right?
So it's there, or it's a it's an investment in the content, or it's coming out of marketing. This is going to come out of our marketing budget because it's going to be seen as the promotions and the marketing and stuff like that. So to me, that made sense. And by the way, both of those departments have to be in your sale,
right?
When you're the modern sale technique, the group. What does it take? 4.6 or 5.6 people,
like that,
something like that. In order to, you need both of those departments involved, because they will be involved.
Yeah. If you go and try to do this without IT, at some point an IT person is going to be like, no, we can't do that. We don't have the functionality.
And they
or
can
the systems to
submarine
do it.
deals like that. You can think that you've got it signed. You're sliding the piece of paper across the desk. IT comes in and just totally submarines the deal, and
Just
you're
picks
done.
that paper up, right in the shredder.
Right in the shredder.
Like, nope, start over.
But you picked up on the exact same thing. So who would be the primary, to create and manage content? Only 14% of marketing made me like shudder a little bit. I'm like, oh man, I feel like there's a disconnect here. And then it's compounded by the fact of who would be responsible putting the onus on in-store staff. So 21% there. It's, to me, I don't know. I love in-store staff. I don't think they're marketers that should be putting up, what the message is. I mean, yes, should they be involved in, as a marketer, you need their feedback on what is selling, those types of things. What are they seeing in the store? Do these kind of messages resonate? So I think they're good in the feedback loop, but I don't know that I want them managing content on my display because it's going to be such a low priority for them. And you can clearly see it when you walk into situations where the content's extremely old, maybe outdated, maybe no longer applicable. And it's like, okay, probably somebody in marketing is not managing that. It could be a store manager that's, realizes 2 weeks afterwards. We don't
still
have
got Christmas up there and it's March, crap,
So I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect, and that's part of to your point, that's part of the narrative that you have to do on the sales cycle is, hey, let's start exposing this. Let's get into the day two. Okay, so we've convinced you that the infrastructure and we've got all that mapped out. That's actually the easy part. Now let's get into the hard part, which is the content. Who's going to manage it? That kind of stuff. You got to have that conversation. And the good news is there's a lot of automation there too. Right. As you know, in our programmatic digital out of home initiative, you can sign up for these marketplaces that have ads and things of that nature that you can pull content, get paid, recurring revenue on those. So there is a lot of options. AI is getting into it now where I'm sure there's an application out there where you can manage your digital signage just by like typing in text, and then AI will come up with some imagery for you to look at and some graphics to do and stuff like that. So I think content will become less and less of the issue, but for now, don't have your in-store staff doing it. Have the conversation. Get the buy-in from the marketing team to do that.
Yeah, I think if this had been something where the number saying that they suggested that they want external IT or a creative agency doing it, if that number had been much higher, I would have been okay with all of the other stuff because it would have been like, all right, most of you get that this is not something you're going to be able to do yourself. But clearly, based on again, that store staff number, the marketing number, the internal IT and operations group, over half of the respondents said they expected either the store or their IT and operations people to be doing this.
Yep.
And this is no shade on those folks at all, but they're usually not your hyper creative design marketing message.
I love me some
folks.
IT people, but no, they're not.
No.
They're not.
And that's okay. That's
crafting messages.
The same way that I'm not the person who's going to be able to,
do help
manage
desk
an entire freaking network. Yeah. I don't have that capacity.
Reboot the Cisco router in the back.
I'm the guy who can write some nice stuff for you and come up with some interesting marketing messages. Yeah. It's one of those, it's a clear segmentation of jobs that I don't think these people have thought about or realized, which again, to your point, it's really great ammo, I think, for you as a VAR to go in as you're having these conversations. And it might be the kind of differentiator that helps you get away from someone, to pull them away from I can just go buy this stuff myself and stick it up, and then I'll tell Johnny, assistant manager over here, to, go throw some stuff up on there, every week.
No,
I think it'll help you bridge that divide to show people look, it's not as easy as you might think. And you may think that, you can do most of this yourself and don't need an external partner doing this, but here's what we're going to do for you. Not only are we going to get you the hardware and install it and get everything up and running, but we have the either capability ourselves or the partners that can help manage the content piece for you too.
That's right.
Is, I would say, probably more important than the actual display itself. The display is half the battle.
Half the battle.
Anybody can stick a display
or a
up.
third of the battle.
If it's not doing anything, or it's not doing anything that's useful to you or your business, what's the point?
Or having a negative impact because you still have Christmas during Easter running up there, and then now you're seen as a fuddy-dud. You're clearly not in Yeah,
exactly.
All that good stuff. But having a clear path, and your point on the partnerships is valid too, right?
Yep.
I mean, have some people in your holster that you can walk in and say, well, I've got this. Or consider doing it yourself, internalizing it. If you're a VAR of a size that you have a marketing department inside, it's not a heavy lift to have to now create a service where you're developing and managing content, which by the way, all this is done remotely. And we had a little network operations center, we called it, which was nothing more than a guy and some screens. It was our knock though.
Right.
And he was managing content on some significant networks out there.
Yeah.
But that's what they did. And there was a value behind that. So anyway, good stuff there.
Yeah.
I will pull this one last thing out before we move on. Who would primarily create, manage content? 3% said myself. I think that's the same 3% up in the top that said they don't see a value in digital signage, right? Because why do I not see a value? Because I'm going to have to run this myself.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I think it's the same 3%.
Yeah.
I'm just,
some poor person was like, I know if we do this, it's going to be my job, and I don't have time for this.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I will also say, too,
anyway.
I called this out, and I even said in the article, this may mean nothing, but most of the respondents who expected store staff to install, maintain, and manage content also thought that the best use cases would be for wayfinding store directories, window and shelf displays. They were all VPs, heads, or director level employees.
Yes.
So maybe that tells you that the folks at the top don't quite see, because they're not the ones that are going to be responsible for this stuff.
Yep.
They're the ones that can be like, whatever, let the peons do this.
That's
they can
right.
take care of that, right?
Yeah. So let it be written, so let it be done.
It can be, could be some good ammo for you going in and be like, hey, I know you think the folks like on the ground can do this for you, but
they're not.
They're not really the folks that are going to take care of this for you. They got other stuff that is very valuable to do in your business. That's not going to be part of their job.
Good stuff.
All right. And then we also asked, we wanted to understand, like, hey, what benefits do you expect from deploying these displays? So let's assume you're going through all this motion, you're getting it done.
Yep.
What do you think you're going to get out of this? And we asked them to select their top 2 out of these potential responses. Over half said they expected recurring revenue to come out of this.
I love it.
I honestly was a little bit higher than I thought.
A lot higher than I thought.
It's one of those things that I'm like, we intentionally made sure that question was going to be in there because we think there obviously is a recurring revenue value.
Yep.
But I wondered, like, how many people are going to see that potential? And maybe it's something where, again, the response kind of led them to like, well, yeah, I'd like that. But again, it's still important to think that half of them see that there's a clear value that they would expect to get out of it, which again can lead to you helping with your pitch to go out there and deploy these. 48%, so again, almost half again said customer awareness.
That's good stuff.
Beneficial.
40%
said increasing traffic. Obviously a big boon. And the next highest one after that was 33% said helping with customer loyalty. Oddly enough, much smaller percentages said higher sales. Only 17% said they expected to get higher sales from deploying these, and 7% said a more informed staff, which, given that not many of them said they thought it would be useful for employee back of house areas necessarily, I get that one at least. But what did you think about this? That more than half of folks saw
I think this
awareness, recurring
dead
revenue.
on. And what I was comforted, I was surprised as you were on the recurring revenue. I didn't know that message had gotten through. But the rest of it, I think, is dead on and appropriate in the sense of customer awareness, a little bit of increased traffic, some customer loyalty happening there. The lower on the higher sales, I think that the shame here is on the industry, meaning the digital signage industry. In the sense that I think a lot of times digital signage is oversold with ROI. A lot of pitchmen walk in and say, oh, if you put this screen up, you're going to see a lift of 250%.
Right.
You're going to see a lift. Our average lift on brands is 80%. I mean, they have some of these wild claims that if you're a store manager and sit back and say, that's BS. It feels a little slimy. I think there was, and back in the day, maybe still today, certain amount of the pitchmen and women that are out there, it's just they have these ROIs that maybe are very, very particular case. I'm not saying they're lying, but in this one particular use case, like, whatever. We were pitching water and it was 120 degrees outside, and we attribute it to the fact that our water sales went up because we had something on the digital signage. I don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think people are seeing that they're a little cautious of that. So only 17% like, maybe we'll see some higher sales.
Yeah.
I do think it has an impact. Clearly it does, but I just don't think it's as wild as some of the claims that are out there. Will you see some lift? Sure. If I see a product and I wasn't even aware that it was there, lift is going to happen.
Well,
I just don't know if it's dramatic.
Right. Yeah. I think too that, it's just like we talk about with marketing in general. A lot of times it's very hard to draw that very direct line between
attribution,
marketing and
exactly
how we made
sales.
some money and how much money we made. And this is, again, one of those examples of like, you can do this, but it's, no one's going to tell you, like, as they're checking out the cash register, hey, I bought this because I saw that sign up there.
Right.
That's not happening. So it's hard to make that direct through line, even though, yes, there is some potential to get a sales lift because of what you're doing as part of your overall picture of increasing brand awareness and customer interaction, drawing people in the store, all that kind of stuff. There's obviously that's going to affect your bottom line. You're just not going to be able to draw a direct line from one to the other to say
it's
us putting up this sign. I mean, I guess unless you deploy your signs and like a month later your business is suddenly running 10% over budget, and it just stays steady from there on out. Maybe you could make that correlation. I guess I don't necessarily know that you're guaranteed that that's the causation, but you can make the correlation if you go there.
And when, I know we're moving on, but just digging a little bit deeper, I did like the fact. So here's the stat: 68% of auto accessory execs
I was going to point that out.
think that they'll see recurring revenue from the displays. That's good. That means that they're already connecting the fact that their manufacturers see a value in having dynamic digital signage. In electronics is like a duh to me,
right?
I mean, why wouldn't those people see a value? And over half of grocers as well. So again, there's just that's already out in the marketplace that they can receive recurring revenue from their manufacturers, their partners, their suppliers to offset some of the costs.
Yeah. I was very surprised overall because there's a few other places where we were breaking down, those different retailer types, and the auto parts and accessories group had some of the most fascinating responses, and it was one where I was like, if this was a group that I had an ability to target in some way or go after, I feel like there is a lot of potential interest in, at the very least, digital signage, potentially digital solutions overall, that maybe they're just not getting this stuff pitched to them that often. There's just not a lot.
So, right?
There could be some potential with these folks, as they clearly are seeing something here. And I guess when I thought about like, especially like when you get into like smaller auto parts and accessory stores, that maybe cater to like a lot of like local shops as well as consumers, you've got some interesting markets that they would work in, because not only do you have like just regular people that might come in and, need to pick up something for their vehicle, then someone that works on their car on their own. But again, I would think a lot of like local garages, local places that are, doing oil changes and doing little tune-ups and stuff, just your, again, mom and pop mechanic shop or something. A lot of them are probably going out and shopping at these, local places. They don't they don't have necessarily the connection with, the dealer does, to get the certified parts.
Huge suppliers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they're probably shopping these places too. So maybe they're just seeing the opportunity and the value of like, hey, the more we can do to convince them that our store is the one they got to come to for all of their needs, and that we have exactly what they need, and make it easy for them to get what they need and get out and get back to fixing these cars. I don't know. Again, that's me speculating there, but I just think if I were in some position where I could sell to those auto parts and accessories stores, I'd be starting to line up some conversations, have some discussions about where they see potential for digital solutions, because it feels like a lot of them, at least from this survey, were clearly bought in what was offered here. And then finally, the last question we asked here was, after we've asked all this, we wanted to get back to the, the kind of the core of like, what concerns do you have about doing this? So, we asked up front, like, why aren't you doing it? What's holding you back? Now, after going through all these motions and hopefully getting them thinking about the idea of, deploying digital displays and what it could mean and what it could do for their business, what concerns you about doing it now? So we asked for a top two of, what were your concerns about installing, maintaining, or supporting the displays? A nice, interesting variety of concerns here, which again could make it easy for us to go out and, talk about all the ways that we can help them out with this stuff. The biggest one, 44% said choosing the hardware or software of the operating system was their biggest concern. 42% creating and deploying content. 40% said installation assistance, and 38% said ongoing tech support, with smaller amounts saying that they wanted to find the best use cases for any store. Although it was still about a quarter of the folks said that they need to figure out, like, what am I going to do with it? And 11% managing across multiple locations. So what stood out about that to you? Did you feel like that seemed like that's just opportunity screaming out?
Yes,
for our
that's
folks?
the word I have. So 3 of the top 4 are opportunities for resellers. Choosing the right gear, basically. right? Installation assistance and ongoing tech support. Bing, ding, 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 ding. You know, that's what resellers do.
Exactly,
So
that's their job.
The top 3 of 4 are right in your wheelhouse. The only one you don't probably have is the creating and deploying content, which 42% said are a concern, right? So
and all the more reason to find a partner that can help you with that.
There you go. If you need any more of a reason to, hey, you've got 75% of this solution you already probably have in-house.
Yeah.
It's that 25 that you need to be able to walk in there confidently with a partner matrix or whatnot to help them answer that, and you will start unlocking these sales. That's where I'm at. So, and I think this data backs that up.
Yep. Completely agree. It was everything there says, hey, there is opportunity for you to go out and sell these.
Bingo.
By being a value-added partner,
That's
by
right.
showing them what you can do.
That's right.
Beyond just, hey, I got this screen. You want it? Okay, here you go. Bye-bye. You know, it's not what our folks do.
Bob in the back told me you needed a screen, so here you go.
Here's the screen. Here's my invoice. I'll see you later. You know,
right? Yeah.
Spend a little more time with them, help them out, see what you can do, because they're not sure exactly what to do once they get that display actually in their hands.
Right.
All right, hey, that wraps up our coverage of this particular survey. Again, if you want a little more details and a little more insights and dig deeper into it, check out the survey. And that reminds me also.
Nation.bluestarinc.com.
There you go. Go check it out. There's other great surveys there you can find.
There's great stuff.
Retail,
up there. Good stuff.
supply chain, all kinds of good stuff we're putting out there. But more importantly, we need to know what kind of surveys you'd like us to do.
There you go.
We're always happy to ask our vendors to sponsor some of these, or just go do them on our own if we think there's going to be real value for you. So this is your opportunity to reach out to us. So in lieu of the normal, like, hey, like the pod, all that stuff, I'm just asking you, to give us ideas for the pod by telling us better ideas of what we could be going out and doing with these surveys. So we're willing to put in the work, we're willing to put in the time, we're willing to put the money in.
You get us the topic, yeah. You give us the concern.
Exactly. Right? Tell us what if you had the opportunity to go out and talk to 100 plus end users, the businesses that you're trying to work with, and understand something about what they need, what they want, what they're doing that could help you sell better to them, find new opportunities. Tell us.
Yep.
No, let us know.
Drop what you're doing right now and just send us a note, because I know you're already thinking about it.
Exactly.
There it is.
Take a moment, just pause the show. If you're driving right now, pull over, send a quick email or something.
jmartin@bluestarinc.com.
TEConnect at BlueStar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I mean, that blows up my email too, so I guess it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Send it to me. Send it to TEConnect at BlueStar Inc. Don't care. Find us on LinkedIn. Send it out there. But please let us know what you want. Or again, there's always that link in the show notes where you can send ideas in for the show. And if you do that, we send you a T-shirt. I mean, I might do it even if you send me email me a great idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We got to get on the T-shirts, by the way. I keep saying that every episode. We got to figure out what our new T-shirt's going to look like. We got to get it printed.
We're behind?
We've got like 5 or 6 people I owe T-shirts
Whoa,
to. So
we got to get that's priority.
We got to put those out there. Hey, if you got an idea for what the T-shirt should look like or have on it, send that in too. I don't care. I'm all about outsourcing the work.
Yeah, really.
Point. Dean and I have a lot of other stuff going on. Anything I can outsource, I'll do at this point. So send those ideas into us. We'd love to hear back from you, and stay in touch also anytime, again, through email or on LinkedIn. All right, Dean, let's wrap things up here. Let's talk a little value to the VAR, which, again, whole episode value to the VAR as far as I'm concerned. But let's distill this down a little bit. So we've mentioned several times, former digital signage reseller.
Yes.
I've mentioned several times I'm a former bookstore employee. I feel like if there's a drinking game for this, anytime one of us mentions that former part of our lives, people take a shot.
People take a shot.
Trashed most episodes.
Yep.
So what would be your biggest takeaway from this? How would this help you go out and find and win new opportunities as a digital signage reseller?
Well, I think we talked about it. Cost is still perceived as part of the barrier, but I think you just need to have a story around that, right? I mean, I'm convinced that the hardware cost is not really the issue. It's the what I'll call the day 2 cost around maintaining content and creating content. So you need to have that answer, and it's. If you're going to commit to having a digital signage practice, it's not that hard to do to get the right partners. Call us. We've got a digital signage practice. We can help out as well through our programmatic digital out of home and stuff that we've engaged with. We can get you connected to some of those people. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there because, again, when we talk about here is, another phrase for this would be like retail media networks. the idea that there are dollars out there. I'm comforted by the fact that so many people see the opportunity for recurring revenue because it is there. Dollars are shifting away from Google. The cookie is crumbling, as they say, right? The cookies are not. So where are those online dollars going to go? They're going to start going into retail, which is the second source of data, meaning you can get the POS data and things of that nature, and actually start making some of those attribution connections. That'll come down the path, but the opportunity's there. So, but you got to figure out that content side. Yeah,
I agree with all
there
that.
It is.
And the only other thing I would say is, if you're looking to start a conversation to get into these discussions, pull some of this data from this survey and ask some folks about it. Say, hey, you know what? I saw this survey that said X amount of people in your line of work said that they don't see this, or they here's the reason why they're not deploying these, or here's where they thought it would benefit. Do you agree with that?
Is that the case?
A concern for you? Is that
well? Let's figure that piece out.
Yeah, exactly. Great conversation starter. You can back it up with some data, get them talking about it, and whether they agree or disagree, and maybe get your foot in the door to start finding some of these opportunities.
That's it. Yeah. Good stuff.
It is. All right, let's wrap up as always with What's Tech Connecting with You, our favorite segment where we talk about something in the world of business, science, tech, innovation, just something we feel like chatting about today. So, Dean, what's Tech Connecting with You this week?
Well, many people wonder who will make the robot that eventually kills us. Right? I mean, I feel like this is on your mind. What is the name of that company?
I'll say because there isn't an actual Cyberdyne.
Right. That was the name of the company, right?
Cyberdyne Terminator. Yeah. Cyberdyne system.
Well, clearly to me, the name of that company is Boston Dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
Because here's the new headline.
They've been creating the robots that have been haunting my nightmares for years now.
Boston Dynamics Atlas, right? This is the most human-looking one, right? Tries out inventory work, gets better at lifting. So they've got a robot.
Better at lifting the boulder that it'll smash down on a human head.
So Atlas now is able to perform tasks similar to working in an auto factory, including lifting 30-pound components. So we'll give you the link. You can watch the video. Atlas takes these struts, a part of a car, which is again around 30 pounds or something like that.
Right.
And what you see it doing is taking it out of a crate, like a shipping crate, like it was shipped to it, and then putting it on a rack, right? So it's picking up the struts, it's putting it on a rack, it's picking up the struts. And by the way, a lot of people are always questioning, well, why are all these robots that we're making look so human? Well, because our world is built around humans.
That's a good point.
And so if Atlas goes down and you need a real worker to do that, well, this is why. So anyway, the Atlas has now mastered this. Obviously we've seen it do lots of things like flips and stuff like that. Well, now it can pick up stuff like these 30-pound struts and move them around. However, and this is funny, Atlas is, they have to plan some of the path around it. So there is still programming going on in the background. And
it's not necessarily running wild just yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But this version of Atlas moves a little less like, if you watch it, it doesn't move like a robot. It's not like this pre-canned kind of a thing. It looks a little bit more like a drunk person, which is a big compliment, right? At one point, you in the video, you see it stumble and it recovers, and that draws a little bit of excitement from the crowd that's watching it. And so right now it's like a drunk person putting away these struts.
Right. So now we're humanizing them too. Like, look at that guy. He's over
he
there
looks drunk.
Look at him picking up that strut. Look at him holding it over my head. That's how it starts.
Just kind of completing it for your narrative. But anyway, we'll put it in there. To me, this is the company. This is the Cyberdyne. These are the people that have created whatever.
I would agree. Every time I see something new they've put out that is got that uncanny valley weirdness that's like not quite real, not quite like moving the way the biological construct that it's built after, whether it's dogs.
That's why I love this, like a drunk person, because when you look at it, and you think drunk person, it kind of looks like a drunk person putting away some struts.
Yeah. It's to disarm you. You're like, it's just a drunk robot. It's nothing to worry about, and it's like raising up over your head.
So anyway,
whatever.
Yeah, what's tech connecting with you, my friend?
Just a matter of time. I'm telling you. There'll be some movie in the future that's Skynet went online after it was being built by Boston Dynamics. Maybe we should just go back and insert that into all the old Terminator pictures.
That's it.
Every time they say Cyberdyne, just say Boston Dynamics. get someone's. I guess Arnold probably doesn't actually say it, but like,
Right? Yeah.
if Sarah Connor saying it or something. I don't know. All right. What's TEConnecting to me? So NASA has always doing interesting stuff to try to figure out how to better explore space, and they're working on how to better communicate in space.
Okay. All right.
If we're gonna send folks, millions of miles away to Mars or other planets to do all this stuff.
Okay.
Well, communication is a little on the slow side. Like it sometimes can take like 20 minutes for a message.
It feels like the can and the string.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Hey, I'm over here.
Right. So they're trying to come up with better ways to do it.
All
So part of that was figuring out like how do they send like high definition video that can be moved very quickly from one point to another. And so they did. They did an experiment to do this. And what do you know? The very first video they decided to send a cat.
Oh, come on now.
Because in our internet age, everything's got to be cat videos.
A cute cat video.
Yeah.
This is the
So
billions
NASA,
of dollars of investment into
ultra high def video just to show a cat playing. Mind you, now this was sent on a laser, so they used a laser to send the message. And there's a video of a cat jumping and running after a laser. A little laser pointer.
Okay, got it.
So
Yeah.
There's a 15-second clip of Taters the cat. It traveled 19 million miles. That's about 80 times the distance from the Earth to the Moon. This happened from a spacecraft that was launched from a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket back in October last year.
Okay, yep.
And then in December, mid-December, they streamed this where they basically had it take that video, the 15-second clip, shoot it through a laser that was basically beamed to the Hale telescope, which then sent it down to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California.
Oh, very cool.
And they basically said it was near instantaneous. It was actually, they said the video actually sent faster than most broadband internet connections.
I believe that.
From millions of miles away.
Oh, dude, that is legit the speed of light.
And they were able to watch their cat video. They also inlaid the video with a bunch of like technical spec stuff, like specs about like the size of the cat and like like just to demonstrate like not only we can send the video, but we can also inlay data with the video if we need to. Again, an example of how maybe they could very quickly get communications from far reaches of space back to Earth. So good stuff that we need to be able to do.
Stuff.
To
take a step back.
Quickly.
We just aimed a laser 19 million miles and hit the mark. Yeah, and it probably wasn't that big of a mark. If it hit satellite first,
probably not.
It's probably the size of maybe a car. I don't know. From 19 million miles away, that's just awesome.
There you go. So it's one of those things like if you watch science fiction, you always see them like millions of miles away sending transmissions to each other and chatting and think like that's not realistic, right? Real. It might actually be more than you think. We may not be able to travel those kind of distances with any rapidity, in human existence, let alone any time in the next couple hundred years or so. But at least we can send cat videos around.
Maybe I'm okay with the cat video. Yeah, it could have been worse.
A dog video. Dogs make fun videos too. Come on. I think they do, So
it's cute stuff. Cute stuff.
It's just me. All right, that's what's TEConnecting with us. It is time for us to unplug. But, until next time, go out there and, send your favorite cat video from deep space.
And watch out for Atlas.
It's coming for you. While you're watching that cat video, Atlas might be looming behind you with those big old struts in its hands. So. And please, folks, stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by ELO. Dean, are you looking to meet the needs of both retail and hospitality customers and their employees, as well as busy on-the-go consumers?
Yes, we do.
I mean, are you personally?
Like, no. Not me personally, no. But as a company and as a channel, absolutely. Yes.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And as one of those busy on-the-go consumers, you like having your needs met, right?
Oh, of course.
Well, the ELO M60 mobile POS computer is designed to support everyday business. It's a rugged, enterprise-grade, all-in-one device with a 6-inch HD touch display, Android 10 OS, Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 octa-core processor.
Nice.
And all the requisite connectivity options. Yes. I'm not going to make a joke about the Snapdragon processor. It's old hat at this point. It sounds cool. It sounds nifty. Maybe it's going to be what helps take over the world with Atlas.
Yes.
What puts the M60 above other mobile computers for productivity is that it also offers integrated payment capabilities to speed customers along wherever they are.
This is true.
The M60 is equipped for dip, tap, and swipe. Dip, tap, and swipe. Oh, yeah. See, there you go. Now we got a little song with it. This needs to become like a YouTube short.
Well, yeah. Usher should have done it during the halftime show.
We need to figure out a way to make the dip, tap, swipe dance somehow.
Yeah.
Elo, we're happy to do this for you. Send
Yeah.
us an M60. We'll figure out a
do
way
it.
to do it.
Yeah,
We'll make it fun. It'll be a great video, I promise. It'll be out there on the webs. There will be people who don't know anything about our channel or commenting on it going, what is this?
What is this?
And why am I suddenly going to do it
It'll
now?
blow up.
There you
That's
go.
right.
So that means that it accepts EMV cards with chips, NFC contactless payments for cards or mobile devices, and those traditional old boring magstripe cards. I guess people are still using those out there. It's perfect for tableside service, line busting, curbside pickup, and anywhere that your customers need to accept payments. To learn more about this amazing device, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar Elo team.